Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, I rise today in support of House Bill 481. Just 2 days following my family's praise to God in the birth of my first grandson. But long before 2 days ago, on April 4th, 1990, nearly 29 years ago, my wife and I entered the hospital in the anticipation of our first child's birth. Not knowing if we would have a boy or a girl, we found ourselves, as all new parents do, just trusting God in all that would come. That day we received our daughter, and we named her Heather. 6 months later, I returned home from working the night shift at the Youth Development Center, known as the Dalton RYDC, as a youth development worker, and I got home about 1 o'clock in the morning. As I walked in, I thought I would look in my daughter, and as I looked in, she was lying there awake, laying on her back, less than 6 months old, and she was looking in one direction. And when I veered over the crib, she turned and looked at me, and then gave me the most precious smile. And I was just overwhelmed because in just a few weeks, she already knew who I was. She already knew who I was. So that night I stayed up, and I just was overwhelmed by the moment. And I stayed up and I wrote this poem for my wife, and it's on each of your desk. The title of this poem is God's Smile. I wrote this for my wife. The pains had started, but it would be a while yet, as the baby wouldn't arrive until your body was set. We were so nervous and scared of the unknown. I was only 25. We were so nervous and scared of the unknown. I'm glad you were there, but I couldn't have done this alone. As the day went along, the pains would get worse. The nurses had warned that you'd probably curse. It would be a boy, so we believed, but God doesn't show what's up his sleeve. Now the pains are really strong. Oh, dear God, let nothing go wrong. I tried to ease your pain, but no matter what, they would always remain. A nurse came in. It's time to have this child. They told you to push, and you really went wild. You pushed and you pushed until the head popped out. It was so big, no wonder you shout. Just a few more pushes, we were almost there. This baby sure doesn't have much hair. It's a girl, they shouted as I grinned ear to ear. God was smiling through me at what he'd put here. They handed her to you, you should have seen your face. God was smiling through you too. I'd know that smile any place. Now sometimes we argue and jest, whose feature she has and who she likes the best. She has your nose, she has my eyes, but she has God's smile, and that's no surprise. Unlike those in 1973, medical science has shown the viability of life in the U-Road. We now know so much more than we did when Roe v. Wade passed. Because of the advances in medicine and technology, we know that any child with a heartbeat, just as anyone in this room, they possess their own and unique DNA, their own and unique blood type. They have brain functioning and have begun developing motor skills. Most importantly, we know that a child with a heartbeat feels pain, the same as any of us. 2 days ago, my daughter gave birth. 2 days ago, my daughter gave birth to a miracle, just as she was 28 years ago. No one names tissue. No one gives a name to tissue. My grandson's name has been known for many months. We were a nation that was founded on a promise that each and every soul was endowed by our Creator with certain and unalienable rights, which means they cannot be taken away. That we all have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What we need to understand is this is bigger than us. It's bigger than the issue of the last 20, 30, 40 years in this country, the political issue. We're looking at the future of our nation. Because the truth of the matter is, it was a contest to find out, could people live without a king? And what rights do individuals have that they could live without a king above them? To tell them how they could live, to tell them how they should live, to tell them if they could be free. The question we have in front of us is, are we still going to be a free nation? Do we have a right to life? Do we have a right to liberty? And do we have a right to pursuit of freedom and happiness? Because the truth of the matter is the very second that we decide that one person doesn't, and that's the question here, is personhood. The question, as soon as we realize that one person doesn't, the truth of the matter is none of us do. None of us do. And once it's deemed that none of us do, and heaven help our country and our nation and our state, I ask you to support this bill and this measure before you. Many of you know I don't come to the well very often. But I just hope we'll make the right decision. I pray we make the right decision. Let's remove ourselves from this equation. Let's remove our grandstanding from standing at this podium and for our folks back home. And let's just take a moment to sit at our desk and say a prayer and ask God to give us direction and simply follow Him. That's what truly gave birth to a nation. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Thank you, Senator.